What sets classical Christian education apart from the modern education system? Well, classical education rejects the notion that the study of individual subjects is adequate to form a fully educated human being. Instead, classical education takes a more holistic approach, pursuing truth, goodness, and beauty to ultimately form an individual who is not just intellectually capable, but who is wise and virtuous. Classical education also divides the stages of a child's education into 3 parts, called the trivium. The first stage is called the grammar stage because it is in this stage that a classical education focuses on the liberal art of grammar, which means building up a student's basic knowledge of things. Grammar stage students use songs, chants, and catechisms to learn and memorize foundational facts and principles, and they learn the foundational skills of every subject they study. Students also read formative, character-building stories and memorize a wealth of scripture so that they can learn to follow that which is good. They are held to high behavioral expectations based on the 10 Commandments and the fruits of the Spirit. Students are asked to wear a uniform, raise their hand in class, and endeavor to do all their work with neatness and attention to detail so that they will begin to love the foundation of beauty, which is structure and orderliness. The next stage is the logic stage, and it builds upon this foundation of knowledge with the goal of deeper understanding. As students build their bank of knowledge points, they are asked to start connecting those dots and drawing conclusions. They learn how to discover the unknown by means of the known using the scientific method, inductive and deductive reasoning, and insightful thinking. Now, students begin to meditate on the good as they consider the nature of things. They start seeking and finding answers to worldview questions like, what is the nature of mankind? The nature of God? The nature of the world? They consider how these questions have been answered by the great thinkers of the past and by Scripture, and they engage with those ideas to form their worldview. As they mature, students advance from an aesthetic preference for simplicity and structure to one that also values complexity and intricacy. They start to see how the artistic elements in a piece of literature, poetry, or art better enable that work to express the true and the good. As students move into the rhetoric stage, they start to better grasp what it means to have wisdom and virtue. Students start to see that a wise worldview is one that is founded upon truth. They examine the complex worldviews of great thinkers of the past through primary sources and literature and closely analyze those worldviews for truth. They further examine their own worldviews for a founding in truth. In these years, students' understanding of the good culminates in wisdom and virtue as they start to ask and answer big questions like, what is the best way for us to live in a fallen world? What is the best way for us to govern ourselves? What does it really mean to live the good life? The hope of classical Christian education is that they will start to see that God's code of goodness, which they have learned and been asked to live by, is in truth the best way in all cases. And lastly, rhetoric stage students begin to craft their own work with an eye for aesthetic presentation and winsome expression. The art of rhetoric is the crowning stage of a classical education because students are being taught how to winsomely and pleasingly present a worldview founded in truth and goodness to the world. The Apostle Paul tells us how to pursue wisdom and virtue when he tells us in Philippians 4 that we are to dwell upon whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable. If anything is excellent or praiseworthy, he says, think about such things. A cohesive focus on truth, goodness, and beauty with the goal of wisdom and virtue isn't something you will find in a typical modern-day school. That's what sets classical Christian education apart.